Hello everyone, this is Mountain Rain. Today I would like to talk to you about memory and how we attach ourselves to memory and how we think that memory is what we are. I'd like to give you a little bit of background in what I used to do. And I worked for long-term care in nursing homes for 25 years. And my job was an activities director. What I did was create activities for long-term care residents, mostly elderly. Some young, some mentally disabled, from young to middle-aged to older. And I worked a lot in memory care. I worked a lot with Alzheimer's and dementia. And that was my favorite area. I loved working with people in that area. And the reason is because it was an area where I could walk in every day into an Alzheimer's unit, and I was brand new, always brand new to these people walking in, saying hello. They ask me who I am, and I tell them the story that I told them every day when I walked in, and it was all brand new. When people look at Alzheimer's and the disease of Alzheimer's, which is what we call it, a disease, it's taken in a way that many families are so saddened by this disease within their family. But from what I've come to know about Alzheimer's, it is teaching us something very, very important. A lot of the families that I saw going through this just didn't think that their family member was the same person anymore. They felt they didn't know them and they didn't know who they were. And there was so much despair over this. I saw so much crying and suffering in the family members. And a lot of the Alzheimer's patients that I spent time with were very happy people. And there were some, although their memories weren't there, only fleeting memories of youth and being young, because those seem to be the last memories to leave. Majority were very happy people. And there were some that still had their inner demons to deal with from youth but that was personal, but that was still them. They were still them. Their soul was intact. What I am trying to say is, even when we don't have our memories, our soul is still intact. We think that just because somebody loses their memory, that person isn't there anymore. What we've actually become connected to was the ego of that person and the personality of that person. But that's not who they are. When we move over into other dimensional levels, we do not keep these bodies. We do not keep these physical bodies. For those of us that believe in reincarnation and even know of its existence and remember, as do I remember many of my incarnations, I was both male and female, man and woman. In all these incarnations of personalities, it does have to do a lot with genes. And in that flesh and blood gene pool, we pull from those previous ancestors that were before us. All the little idiocentric personality traits come from the gene pool. The way we act, the way we move, the little innuendos and motions we take with our hands when we speak, those come from gene pools. But the soul is separate from that. It is not connected to that. the soul is very imaginative in the way it creates itself through a physical body, and it's very interesting. And after being in that service for 25 years, working with Alzheimer's and dementia patients, it's taught me a lot about memory and the soul. So what I would like to do right now is give you a brief vision on what we are as a soul and how we attach ourselves to memory. Because it is an attachment. And one of the big things about being here is that many of us have a problem. I wouldn't say a problem. I would say it's a little confusing why we can't remember who we are. And it just makes me giggle a little bit now because I used to feel the same way. I used to think, well, why can't I remember who I am? Why can't I remember my incarnations? I mean, I've had brief visions of them, and when I would have brief visions of who I was, of my previous incarnations, and the soul that I am, why can't I remember these grandiose visions of what I am? And it was until I came to the understanding that memory is not what we think it is. We think that memory is so linear. We think of it in a linear fashion of, I was born, I created this person that I am. Actually, when we don't understand what we are, we don't realize we're creating who we are. But I live this person that I am. I have this personality. This is who I am. But we create that personality by what we think people think of us. And that's what we're creating. It's not who we are. And it's so interesting because all of these memories that we attain throughout our childhood, whether they're bad or good and what we consider them, forms this personality that we are. And nobody's forming this personality for us. We are forming it for ourselves. We're thinking and believing that what people think about us is what we are. And that's really interesting because I'm learning so much even now, just talking about it and thinking about it. This awakening process is so beautiful, interesting, and amazing, and making me, and I want to say creating me, I'm creating myself each moment. And I'm understanding how it's working, that we create ourselves. And me talking through this physical person that I am now is not who I am. Even this voice, this tone of my voice is not who I am. It's only vibrations and tone. Memory is a creation that we created within this dimensional plane. It's beautiful. It's wonderful. And one of the big reasons we came here. In other dimensional aspects of ourself and other realms, memory is something that we don't create. It's just there. And it's that kind of memory is a whole different realm. It's something that cannot be spoken in words because it's not linear. It's something that we can't experience on this plane, and that's why we can't remember it. When you're in realms of, such as this realm, the physical realm, the flesh and blood realm, this is a realm that we came to experience something that we can't experience in the other realms of constant memory. Constant memory meaning a 360-degree physical memory. You can taste, smell, touch, and feel at the same time. And we can't do that here, not in that way. I'm going to try to explain it in the best verbiage I can. Memory on that level, when I've made videos in the past saying we chose to forget, I'm getting as close as trying to get as close as possible to what we are forgetting. It's not so much a physical memory that's stored in the brain like we store memories in the brain here. The memory I am speaking of is a memory of knowing. It is a memory of feeling. And even that doesn't even come close, because this memory I'm speaking of is emotion. It is a physical, mental, all-encompassing motion of life in another dimensional level of ourselves that we cannot feel in this dimension because we are in a physical realm. And that is more of an ethereal realm. And we are so much more alive. People that have passed away and have experienced this know, and they will say that that other dimensional realm is more real than this one. This is almost like a black and white version of what we really are. And that's the kind of sense I'm trying to portray in what we really are. And when I get back to the Alzheimer's and dementia and the memory that we have here, I want to portray to you how important each individual soul is, because we came here to experience life. And many of us came to experience life in a way to show others what life is all about. Because this existence, although we're not remembering in that way, it is so important that we absorb every moment that we have in this dimensional aspect of ourselves. And when I see those Alzheimer's dementia patients, I never looked at them as any less than me or anyone, because everyone is the same beautiful soul, no matter where we are. And although these people have dementia and they cannot remember moment to moment and retain and store that information, the soul is storing it. The soul is remembering everything that it experiences. Not in the same way that we experience it, but it remembers everything. So when we look at a person and they're not remembering something and they forget from moment to moment, their soul is retaining every single second of it, microsecond, everything. So we need to remember that while we're here. And when we're storing every microsecond of every moment, we bring it with us to the other side, to what we consider the other side. Because actually, everything's taking place in the same space, in the same moment. It appears to be linear, but it's not. It's a perception. A very, very interesting perception that we came here to live and to know and to understand. There are some things I've been shown about this disease, what we call disease. And what we call diseases, these are learning tools for us. This is teaching us to have patience with one another, to have compassion for one another. And when we think somebody is separate or lesser than us, we're judging ourselves. And it's so important that we understand this. That although someone appears to be on a plane that we just don't understand, or they're not as smart as us because they can't retain memory, or feeling like you're above them because they can't keep up with you in their thought process. And how misconstrued that really is, because it's all about perception, and that's the whole reason we're here. The perception of everything and how we look at it. And it's so interesting. It's so beautiful how perception on another individual can change the way we think about something. And what's really interesting about that too is the imagination is involved there, because imagination and perception walk hand in hand. And how you choose and have the free will to use your imagination to perceive things is a very important key to living in this life. And once you have that mastered, once you have that key mastered of imagination and perception, wow, doors really open up. And it's so amazing, so amazing. Every day, every night, so many doors are opening up. I mean, I could close them off anytime. I could just say, okay, you know what? I can only absorb so much information. And that's my free will to do so. I have so much information coming through right now. It's so amazing. And I just want to share it. And I've been sharing 2, 3, 4 videos a day. Not because I have to, because I want to. And it's up to you to listen. I mean, sometimes my ego says you're overdoing it. Too much information. And I don't know. Are you really this is just too much for people to listen to. But I'm going to share it anyway. And I tell my ego, oh, go sit over there. I'm going to share it anyway. It's just who I am. It's who I'm going to be. It's who I want to be. I kept it all in my whole life. My ego telling me, what you say isn't important. It's not that important. Well, it might not be. But for that one person that listens and it changes their whole life and puts them in a joyful place in their life where they had no joy before. Even just that one person that made a difference. Well, I'm going to let y'all go. I love you all. And we're walking this journey together. We're helping each other. And every single person in this world helps me. And I want to thank you all for being here. Many blessings.